Well, hello, good morning. What's up, dude? How's it going, Mark?
Great. How you doing, man?
Fantastic. Welcome, everybody. My name is Drew Lentz. I'm the wireless nerd, and today I've got my special buddy Mark on with us. I figured every week, right? I just sit here and I crank out the little podcast. I have fun talking to myself, and it's okay, but then it's like, why not invite someone else? Whoa, look at that. Why not invite someone
Wow.
else to come join the fun? Especially, I feel like I've been talking a lot about 5G and CBRS and LTE and all those things. I was like, dude, you posted, let me trim this light down a little bit. You posted something this past week out like with Fernay or something on a one wheel. And I was like, dude, what the hell? Anyway, welcome everybody. Thanks again for tuning in. A huge celebratory week for me. Crossed 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and like cue the applause. I got to get my stuff together and like figure out little
Figure
buttons.
out the noise.
And anyone who knows me, who has listened to the podcast or seen me, be obnoxious wherever it is, knows that I had a bet with my wife, and she said, if you can cross 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, I will buy you a trip to Mexico. So Mexico, here I come. I told her this weekend, I was like, there you go, babe. We're going to Mexico. So I'm going to post waves from the waves.
Nice.
I think I'm going to do Cancun. I think that's
Ooh,
anyway.
nice.
So lots of fun stuff to cover this
Stuff,
week.
so.
But first, Mark, I want you to introduce yourself to anyone who may not know you. Who are you? What do you do? Where are you from? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Everything about Mark Houtz. I am a network engineer for a bunch of school districts up here in Utah. That's how I know Fernay and Keith. I live about an hour from both of them. But I have gotten heavily into the private cellular world. That's where I've got a lot of my followers is in the private cellular world, but I am also CWNE 500. That was a pretty cool little milestone I got.
It shows on your little LinkedIn badge there. It says CWNE5. Love it, man.
So I've been doing the Wi-Fi thing since about 2007. So I've been in Wi-Fi for a lot longer than private cellular, obviously. But
Awesome.
I got started in private cellular before CBRS was really a thing. So
and
playing with all the waves.
Dude, for real. And I find that there's people who have been playing in the space as long as we have, and we do a lot in Wi-Fi, right? And so every day I feel like we're just surrounded by Wi-Fi people talking about Wi-Fi stuff, and there's so much more out there. My background, if in case anyone cares or whatever, is I started building internet service providers, and then started doing wireless internet service providers, and doing point to multipoint and WiMAX. And I got to mention a word that I hadn't used in years the other day on a phone call. I was talking about Navini and our deployment of Navini down in South Texas.
Oh, yeah.
So when you talk about WiMAX and LTE and all that, it's so much fun. And then Wi-Fi is just like this tiny little piece that everybody uses, but there's so much more out there. And I think as we see the convergence actually now finally really starting to happen, it's so intriguing to me because I'm seeing two worlds come together, right? And CBRS did a lot with that. I mean, there was a lot to do with opening up those frequency bands, opening up band 48, figuring out how to onboard devices, onto the infrastructure. But now, I mean, I love the idea. I don't think we'll ever see a single device that does everything. I mean, probably won't see a Wi-Fi device that does CBRS, but we'll probably see a CBRS device that does Wi-Fi. I would imagine that would come first.
Well, this in your pocket does both. So,
well, I mean, like a base station or an access point.
I'm like, there's clients out there.
Yeah, dude. So real quick before there are some things I want to talk about that are happening this week. But first, look, so I'm using I like Restream. I always use Restream. So if you're listening to Restream, feel free to give me a free subscription because it's expensive, but it's totally worth it. But so I'm trying to figure out the little studio thing. I'm going to jump on your LinkedIn real quick, and I want to show what it is that I was looking at from you. Let's see. All right. Where was it? You show all posts. Let's see if I can find out what's going on with you here. Where is that picture? There. Okay. I've got brought up. I don't, hopefully anyone who's watching can see that. Dude, tell me what the hell were you doing? Like what? Tell me about this set of pictures. What is this cow? And what is this spectrum? Tell me what's going on in these photos, man.
So back about 2 years ago, Fernay and Keith kind of got me onto this whole idea. They were doing some Wi-Fi surveys at a high school football field here in Utah, in the Salt
Uh-huh.
Lake Valley, and they were just wanting to test some different things, and they kept getting reflections off the bleachers and off buildings and stuff. And so they kind of had they didn't get a real great coverage of how far an AP went. So they came up with this idea to take it out to the Salt Flats, which the Great Salt Lake, just west of Salt Lake City. If you keep going west of that, just before you reach Nevada, Wendover, Nevada, there's a big flat lake bed that they call the Bonneville Salt Flats. Around the world, there's multiple salt flats that are very similar, some bigger ones in other countries, so the salt flats are just a big flat area of salt. It's miles and miles and miles of just flat. So Fernay and Keith several years ago tested out Wi-Fi, and then about 2 years ago, I chatted with Fernay, and we went back and we're testing Wi-Fi then. And after that, but at the same time, I was like, let's test CBRS out there as well. And so a buddy of mine and Fernay and his kids and some other friends, we went out there and did some testing with CBRS. We had the radio about 15 feet off the ground, so the Fresnel zone was hitting the ground. Not a great setup, but we didn't have. It was a last minute planning and things, so we didn't get very far. We got about 2 miles out of this radio. It was crazy. On our drive back, we have a school district that has one on top of it. We got about 12 miles out of that one, which is we're like, it was crazy. But we wanted to go back and test, and so this has been 2 years in planning. A buddy of mine at Murray School District, a lot of people in the private cellular world know him, but he bought this trailer that has a 60-foot mast on it.
Oh, that's the cow.
That's the
Okay.
cow. And so
Got
we're
it.
like,
Got it.
this will
All
help
right.
us set things up quicker. We'll be able to set it up quicker because last time it took us like all day just to get the thing set up, and
There
we
it
had
is.
like 2 hours to just do any testing. This time we had it up and had a lot more time to be able to test. But so we stuck 2 CBRS radios on there. We were going to test band 41 as well. We have a license for band 41 for the area, but we didn't get to that. We ran out of time for that, but we were able to test 2 CBRS radios. I think they were both bicells. One might have been Nokia. I can't remember. But we got 4 miles out of those across that salt flats. So
Man, and what was the client device that you guys were using when you were testing these out?
so we had a Nokia phone. It's
Okay.
basically a big Android phone, but
Uh-huh.
it was actually a pretty ruggedized, really nice device. We were testing 5G. One of the radios was 5G, the other one was LTE. So we were testing both.
Okay.
But this device was 5G. We had some other devices we were going to test, but they didn't end up working in the moment, so we had issues with them.
It
But
happens.
I took the Spectran V6, the Aronia
Yeah.
device.
Yeah.
So I captured that one of those pictures. It's me there holding the Spectran V6
Yeah, let me see if I can bring it up.
as I'm driving along, as my buddy's driving along the side by side. So I'm holding it, just
There you
capturing.
go.
And so I captured for 5 miles the spectrum
That's awesome.
as the signal to slowly decrease till it was barely visible. But
How far do you think what was the maximum amount that you got out of it?
like speeds?
No, distance,
Oh,
distance-wise.
distance. So just past 4 miles
Wow.
is where it kind of started to drop. We
Is that
had signal
is it
at
usable
5.
though?
Oh,
It
4 miles was usable. Yeah, we were doing speed tests at 4 miles, and it was
Wow.
usable.
And that's 30 that was CBRS bands, 3600,
Yep,
3650.
CBRS bands.
Wow.
We
Well,
at
okay,
5 miles, an
5
iPhone we
miles
had still had signal,
unobstructed,
but it was not usable. So,
flat surface, 15 feet though is what you said.
huh? This
You said
time
fif
is 60 feet off the ground.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
Wow.
15 feet. We got 2 miles.
Man, that's awesome. And I think when I've used it, not in that, obviously not in that environment, but when I look at the environments that I've put it in, where it's like in cities or school districts or whatever, we see maybe with a buy sells like a 436. I
Q.
think we'll and a standard UE, like a standard phone, we'll see you know maybe a mile. You throw
Yep.
some trees in there, it's like half a mile, something like that. So we
Yep.
draw a cell size about a mile from edge to edge. But yeah, I can't imagine. And I live in South Texas, right? So flat, but lots
Yeah.
of trees, lots of low brush.
Yep.
So it shows you how much not interference, but how much physical structure makes a difference and things like that. What were some of the lessons learned was there anything surprising about that test? Because I mean, it's very rare that you get a chance to just go out and spend a day just messing with stuff and having a good
Oh
time.
yeah.
Was there anything that you brought back from that and you're like, dude, that's like I'm so glad I did it because and the Aronia product you're using, that's awesome.
Height.
This-
Height definitely helps. Get the antennas higher.
yeah.
Um, that is a big thing. Getting it 15 feet off the ground,
Hmm.
going to 60, you can double your distance.
Wow.
That's a big thing. So get it high as possible. I the thing about private cellular, if you're trying to reach kids at home or things like that, um, the reason they have towers so high on the carrier side,
Hmm.
is you're trying to go through the roof, not through the side of the wall a little
Yeah.
more. You're trying to get it through the roof
Well,
because
and
the roof is
here's
a little less
yeah,
blocking the signal.
there's not brick up there. Maybe it depends. I mean, it depends on the material. Now, here's another question Jeremy's asking on the chat. What was the noise floor there versus downtown SLC? I
Uh,
mean,
on the flats was neg 105, I think, if I remember right.
awesome.
Was the noise floor? It was like great, no signals, anything at all. So
Yep. Oh, he also
I don't
follows
know.
his
It's
height.
downtown.
Height
I
is
haven't
a
looked at
mic.
downtown Salt Lake. I'm sure it's much lower or much higher.
Yeah, man. We saw when I deployed CBRS here in McAllen, we put up 24 base stations of Cambia and we did 1,000 street lights with subscriber units on them. And our noise floor in the CBRS spectrum was in the in the high 90s. It was like 94 to 96, I would say was pretty average. We did have some areas where it changed a little bit, 89 to 94. Not a lot of traffic. We would see it as we got closer to the border. We'd see more traffic, more bleed over traffic from what was happening in Mexico because I'm
Mhm.
10 minutes away, 5 minutes away. But even at that, it always, the conversation about how well does spectrum allocation services work, right? How well does the SAS work? And the only problems that we experienced after running that network for 2 years and having it fully deployed didn't have anything to do with spectrum. It had to do with when Amazon had the outage, when Federated had the outage, when Google had the outage. It was like that was the problem. Is all of a sudden no frequencies were getting allocated, all the equipment started freaking out. So hopefully that's been there's a path to resolution there. But did you see anything that was concerning other than you talked about the happy part, but did you see anything concerning where you're like, oh, I got to watch for that? Also, I need to get
um,
these cups printed so my logo is on
oh,
the other
nice.
side. So when I drink, I'm like,
Yeah,
ooh.
you do. Oh, things. Sorry, what was the question?
Did you see anything? First, it just made me
Oh,
think of a talk
gotcha.
show. So I need to send you a mug. Now that you've been a guest, since I have mugs, I'm going to send you a
Yes.
mug. Did you see anything concerning where you're like, "Ow, that's something I definitely have to watch out for"? Where
Um,
next time you deploy, what's going to pop into your head?
um, Going back to your original thing there with SAS. SAS is really there to protect incumbents. It's
Hmm.
not really there to protect the GAA people. It is a
Yeah,
little bit, but not really.
yeah.
And so, as I've learned and played with this stuff over the last 4 years, it's kind of, if you're doing GAA, it may take you some time to get a grant, but you most likely will get at least some of a grant, especially
Hmm.
with how limited private cellular CBRS still is deployed. In a lot of areas, like bigger cities, it's deployed a lot more, but in smaller rural areas, like where I live in these areas, there's nothing in that band, and so the SAS is kind of not there is more there to protect incumbents, and so you're kind of guaranteed, not guaranteed, but have a better opportunity to chance to get spectrum. Beyond that, things we learned out there. It works great at speed. You can keep things going super fast. That's one of the benefits of this is you get distance and speed.
Mhm.
The Salt Flats is known for speed records.
Yeah,
They've
I saw
set,
Bonneville
they've set,
Salt Flats, man. The
yeah,
Goodyear, what was the name of that car? I was a Guinness
I don't
Book of World
remember.
Records nerd when I was a kid, and it was like the Goodyear. It was the fastest vehicle ever made, and it was done on the Bonneville Salt Flats. Like that's where
Yep,
people test, where they test
yep.
the racing cars.
The last weekend before we went out there, they had a local group out there doing some speed tests. They came and picked up the porta potties and the garbage bins and all that stuff while we were sitting there. But so it's definitely a good place to test speed with private seller.
763 miles per hour set by
Oh,
Thrust
wow.
SSC in 1997.
Yep.
What?
That's where I
Anyway,
was that place. So
forget about it.
speed, if you need speed, cellular's the way to go. Wi-Fi absolutely can't keep up because you have to hop, 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 hop.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
okay. So
cellular
what
is
I'm
a great
so
use case for that.
okay. So in close proximity, though, if you're
Hmm.
not at Bonneville Salt Flats, if you're in an office space
Hmm.
and you've deployed less 5G than you have Wi-Fi, for example, one device for every 5 or 10 or whatever your magic formula is. There is no magic formula. Sorry if
No.
anyone was looking for that magic formula. There's no magic formula. Use cases vary, but if you have less deployed and you're trying to do more with less, do you that's where I would say, well, I don't know. It depends on what your deployment technique is. Let me
Yeah.
ask you another question. And because I got asked this week, and I didn't want to answer. I tried to dodge the question because I didn't want to say, I didn't just want to flat out say no. Deploying CBRS for UE connectivity outdoors. What are your thoughts with that? And what I mean by that is, and I'm sure but for anyone who doesn't know what I mean by that, deploying a CBRS outdoor base station to connect to mobile phone devices. What are your thoughts of doing that, like in a park or in an outside area or a stadium, or to cover a courtyard or something like that? Something to do or something to stay the hell away from?
If you're, it all depends on if you have control over the UEs. If it's just general public, neutral host is still as you talked about last week. It's coming,
Yeah.
but it
Well,
still
let's say
has
let's say
its
that
issues.
neutral host is there. Let's say that there
Okay.
is the equipment does support neutral host, and I can walk outside. And this is leading into questions I have for you
Mhm.
about Helium and XNet. Is Helium outdoor deploying a Bicell's base station, turning it on? XNet just announced that their partnership with a carrier, and then you go back, you scroll back, and you see everything says AT&T on their website, but or on their on their Twitter. But you deploy XNet outside, and it's in your neighborhood, and now you've got people walking in your neighborhood using AT&T over CBRS offloaded to XNet. I am not a fan of that model. Um, I think that there's too much, there's just a lot there, man.
Yeah.
And I'm a little curious how that's going to work out. Is that something you would do, or is that something you stay away from? And also, do you have any
So
experience with XNet and
I
Helium?
I've been approached by the XNet guys to design something in downtown Salt Lake with Jeremy there. Him and I were approached. I turned it
Mohammed's
down. I
online, by
turned
the
it
way.
down for that
He's
kind of that
waving at
same
us.
reason. The issue, so Paul and Mobile was another big one of these guys with these crypto
Forgot about
boys
them.
that
Yeah.
were very, very heavy, did a lot of stuff. We're really trying to push this and build this off the crypto wave.
Hmm.
And then they partnered with T-Mobile. How they partner with T-Mobile, devices could join T-Mobile or could join you.
Yep.
So if you're in an area that has T-Mobile coverage, the device is never going to join you at that point. And so once that happened, everybody dumped their base stations onto eBay. I bought a bunch of them off eBay
Yeah.
for
Yeah, they
dirt
were real
cheap
cheap.
because all of a sudden they were making this crypto that had very little value, and suddenly they weren't getting their money back. And
Hmm.
so I'm not saying XNet's going to have the same issue. These guys are trying to avoid following the same path, but as they part the benefit. if they partner with AT&T and you have these base stations in areas where AT&T has coverage, you're definitely going to potentially have some issues with that.
Yeah, and that raises the question, right? And there's so much that has to be done from a coordination perspective. And I remember some of the first reasons I got involved in doing this were to set it up and to see how difficult is it to set up. And also, as someone who's deployed a bunch of CBRS, understanding all of the things that are involved to do that, I was like, what is the process for setting it up, and how are they protecting that? Like, if I'm setting up a CBRS base station and I have to say this is where it's installed and lock in the GPS and take 3 pictures and an azimuth and a picture with a calculator or a compass or whatever it is, and they make you do all these things to deploy it, then, and that's great. But the guardrails are then that you have said that this is where it's deployed. But what if the local holiday parade happens down the street for me and I go, hey, here's a great opportunity for me to earn some token. I'm just going to stick that thing in the trunk of my car and drive down to the holiday parade and light it up. And sure as shit, everybody jumps online. And then someone makes a 911 call.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
and then what? And
Yep.
so I look at what they're doing, and I look at what, and kudos to them. I'm not trying to
Oh yeah.
naysay. I mean, I love it.
No.
I'm early adopter, love it, think it's a great idea. I just see that there's so many things that have to happen for that to work successfully, that it's fascinating. And then you look at what Helium's doing, and again with XNet, where they essentially, you set up a base station, and in XNet's case, you have to buy their equipment, right? It doesn't work on anyone else's equipment yet except for theirs. So you purchase their equipment, you turn it on, you activate it, and the more people that use your network, they give you money in the form of their token, so that you earn token the more people that use your stuff. And it gives you a certain rate. I don't know what it's at right now, but they pay you at a certain rate worth of their token, which is worth something apparently somewhere. And that's a way that you can say, hey, I can justify deploying all this equipment because now I'm earning money for the people that are using this stuff. But is that, I mean, how far will it go? I wrote down 2 things on a phone call I was talking about. One of them is who's got the liability for
Mhm.
E911 when
Yep.
someone moves their base station, right? Because keep in mind that people are going to be deploying tens of thousands of these things, hundreds of thousands of these things. There's going to be people that just move it. There's going to
Yep.
be. It's especially if they see a chance
It's
to earn.
inevitable.
Yeah, and then I have no idea what I wrote. I don't know what letters these are. I can't even read my own handwriting. But traction. It says traction. But what do you think the traction is going to be as things, now that AT&T and XNet have talked, or now that XNet has talked about having a partnership that we're
Mhm.
assuming is AT&T? Do you think, how well do you think that that's going to take off? Any ideas?
Um,
Any thoughts on those guys?
Indoors, as JR put a good comment there. He said outdoor isn't the play with CBRS, in his opinion. I
Yep, I agree.
It depends. Your use case depends. I'm like private cellular,
Private cellular,
neutral
yes,
host, outdoor,
totally agree.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Neutral host, outdoor is not your play. Carriers,
okay, I
unless
agree
you're
with
in a
that.
rural area where there's no coverage of anybody or your specific carrier, then maybe.
Yep.
Um, but he says macro networks are not the problem. Indoor is the problem.
Yeah.
Indoor, if you have a building where coverage does not penetrate down the basement or something, this absolutely, as you said, as you talked about last week with neutral host and replacing your DASs,
Hmm.
absolutely, this could be a big play for those sites at scale. In a big stadium or something, absolutely go with a DAS still because you're using carrier spectrum. You don't have as much spectrum with CBRS, but with CBRS in a small building or in a basement or something, this absolutely could be a good partnership with AT&T to help provide coverage.
Yeah, and I love what Mr. Ali was saying here, where he says, "I've been successful on the Wi-Fi side with AT&T and T-Mobile, waiting on this other vendor just to be holding out." And that's the same thing. It works great right now on the Wi-Fi side. The Passpoint stuff that we're doing, the Passpoint stuff that Ameriband's doing, that we're doing with Signal Roam, we're having such a good time with that. I've been fielding phone calls and emails left and right since I pushed that video about Ubiquity. It's like, dude, it's stacking up, and it's really, really cool. I'll have to throw in a Signal Room sticker for you in your coffee
Ooh,
mug.
yes,
But
yes.
I'll throw in an AP so you
Ooh,
why
yeah.
not?
I've
I'll
been
give
I've
you
been
some
playing with it too. So
it's so cool. It's just
yeah,
so cool and so easy, and I look at the three tiers of this, and this is what I talked a little bit about last week, where you've got DAS, as you mentioned, carrier side, fantastic, get the signals, bring them back in, but the expense that's involved with that is so high, and then you look at what private cellular offers and you look at how that ties to neutral hosting. There's a really, to me, that was that's really the promise of OnGo, and they're having their meeting next week. So lots of cool news is going to come from that. Case studies and whatnot are coming from the OnGo Alliance meeting next week in Dallas. It's going to be really neat to see how that's progressing. I'm super excited because I remember laying eyeballs on this thing when I was at Facebook and seeing it work on the Facebook campuses, going, "Oh my God, you're doing this with Airspan equipment and Infinity, and this is awesome." And Joel has continued to push that and doing incredible things with it. And now, I was super excited. I think I went back and watched. I had to go back and watch the video because I didn't want to screw something up in a conversation. I went back and watched our video from Ability Field Day, and it was when Mehmet from Salona started talking about Moxon and about neutral host and what they're doing, and it's going to come soon and whatever. I was like, yes, finally. Like, so, it's so cool to see the traction happening in the industry, and I'm super 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 excited for it. But I
yeah,
just, the way I see the pieces of the puzzle, right, is you've got Cisco and Meraki doing the Cisco Meraki thing, and not a clearly defined play for private cellular, private 4G, private 5G. Not, they have things, but whatever. And then you have Juniper, right? And I feel like I'm talking at the WLPC crowd, right? You have Juniper, where Bob shows up and has a great time and says
yep,
everything he does, and then you see this partnership forming with Salona and Juniper, and you're like, oh man, that could be something.
yep,
And then all of a sudden, HPE pops out, and they had this deal where there was the you could purchase Salona on the Aruba parts list. We're like, oh, okay, well maybe that's happening. And then they're like Athonet, and you're like, whoa, what? Okay,
yep,
here comes Athonet, and you're like, all right, that's happening here. Cisco still hasn't figured out what they're doing there yet. And then you've got Juniper, and you're like, okay, well maybe Juniper is going to get into that, and then bam, HPE, and you're like, whoa, hold on. There's so many things happening in that space where I'm looking at it right now and I'm going, man, I see so many moves happening where it's like Wi-Fi, it's like, yay, Wi-Fi 7. But I'm looking over here and I'm going, what's all that activity happening on the other side? So what's your take on kind of the state of the industry right now, coming from the 5G side?
Ooh, it's definitely in flux. We're still early days with private cellular. We're 4 years in from since CBRS was released right before COVID,
Hmm.
and I've definitely been. Oh, I'm excited. Everything's been going to be awesome, amazing. We're going to make millions, and then I don't know if this is going to actually happen. And it's just been this back and forth, back and forth. It's been. I have a buddy. He's a sales guy for um, uh,
Somebody.
somebody, one of these companies, and I've chatted with him many times, and they're like, "Yeah, CBRS is kind of like this," and
It's
it's like,
there's bumps in it,
"Yeah,
it's like it's
there's little
moving.
bumps, but it's not this big growth yet." And so it's like, is this going to be a big industry? And then AI came in and took a lot of the funding and different things, and so it's like it's growing. It's definitely on the incline. The last few months have definitely had some big bumps that have helped it kind of grow a lot more.
Yeah.
Um, there's
I would
there's still a
agree.
lot of interest.
And I
Uh-huh.
think that there's been some uptick in, there's been some press releases and
Yep.
announcements that go out where some universities have adopted it, different organizations have adopted it. Verizon made their announcement with Cummins saying, "Hey, we can do it. And if you want Verizon, you have to buy Verizon. And we'll throw in AT&T and T-Mobile." But Verizon still, no one has been able to pin Verizon down on neutral host for any other product yet. So it's like, all right, when's that going to happen? And as soon as we get that 3 carrier load in the US, that's going to be great. What about international though? I mean, I've been the amount of email that I have gotten from people asking me about Signal Roam internationally has been insane. And
Yep.
it's great. Australia, New Zealand, Germany, UK, Spain. They're like, when can you do this with what we have? I'm curious. You're not working on anything international though, right? Like
No,
that's not,
no.
yeah.
I'm not
Right. And
international, but I've been watching international. My first talk at WLPC Prague,
yeah.
back in the day, I talked about what Solana was kind of doing internationally. There's a couple options. Solana had a big graph. Good one there, JR.
Yeah, man. It's true. Wi-Fi will never be
Yep.
accepted. Wait a minute. But I guess, but the question is, are we there yet? Right? Or
Yeah.
how close are we? Because I'm the problem is that I get, is this the forest through the trees mentality? Because I'm looking at it right now. Is it just like, oh my God, everything's going great? Or are we really looking at this from an industry going, it's coming.
Mhm.
It's closer than coming. And I love the HPE announcement about Athonet and about bringing it together under Central, because for the first time it seemed like single pane of glass to do everything. And
Yep.
if you take that a step further and you look at HPE Aruba, and then not no official word, right? This is the beauty of not working for anyone right now except for myself, is that I can say stuff like this, and it's not tied to a vendor. It's like you look at HPE Aruba and the Juniper thing, and you go, well, dude, if you guys can use Marvis to tie all of this stuff together, that would be so badass. Like, like bring it all in, everybody.
Four
Like,
four years
come in.
ago, 4 years ago, I was chatting with Bob Friday. I was in a customer advisory call, and I randomly threw out CBRS. Bob called me, has called me so many times. He's like, I'm like, you need to bring private cellular into Marvis.
Yes.
And so hopefully, finally, we're getting that with HPE.
Well, oh yeah, okay. Hopefully, finally, we're getting that in 2 years when everything's done,
Yep.
assuming regulate. Ah, damn it! Like you're so close.
Yep.
So and I look at that, and there's things that there's things I'm aware of that I can't talk about, that I shouldn't talk about, that I won't talk about. But there's also things that are happening in the industry where people are making big moves. So I would encourage anyone who's interested in seeing how these come together to just go look at the companies you're interested in, especially in the Wi-Fi space, and see who's hiring who. Because if you look at that, it's very easy to see, wait a minute, why is this person's moving over here, this person's moving, what's going on? So I think that looking at that and understanding where it is, there's so many great things that are moving along in the industry. Oh my God. Okay. So that went way longer than I thought. I try and keep the podcast like 20 minutes, and here we are at 45 or whatever it is. Let's jump. I want your opinion on some of these things. So I've got, I appreciate, I know that you listen to the podcast. I do appreciate that. One out of 999 listeners, apparently. But so let's see what's going on this week, man. I've got all these browser tabs open, and eventually I will, if I can start monetizing YouTube, then maybe I can finally buy a teleprompter. Like Keith Parsons keeps telling me, he's like, you gotta look at the screen, Drew. You're dumb. You look weird. He didn't tell me I'm dumb, but he's like, you keep looking off to the side. He's like, why don't you look at the screen? So Keith, someday, my friend. Okay, first thing I got on the news. You ready for this? This from LinkedIn. 3UK's embrace of 5G fixed wireless access for broadband continues to deepen as it launches the market's first 5G outdoor hub solution. So this was 3UK was talking about their outdoor hub. It can be wall mounted, pole mounted, window mounted, or placed in a temporary stand. And I'll share this on the screen. If you hadn't seen this, this is what I'm looking at. That's still you. Let me yay. Yeah, hold on. Let me find the
You just
right.
want to keep sharing that stuff with me, right?
Yeah, right. Let me see. I'm trying to figure out how to use this for the first time. Hang on. Let's replace that with let's see, screen share, and let's go over here to this post on LinkedIn. Here you go. So I saw this. I was like, oh man, that's kind of cool. The ability to have a 5G device that can be stuck on your window, or attached to a pole mount. I love the mounting options of this. But it said either side of the Atlantic to sell FWO's comprehensive home broadband solution continues to reign stark with U.S. champions Verizon, T-Mobile bundling extensive content subscriptions and other perks. But from a CPE perspective, this is so terrifying to me, having worked in the industry, for so long, and giving end users the option to mount things in different locations. To me, is always like, oh God, why would you do that? Because the
Yep.
second you do that, they're going to mount it in the place that it's least likely to work.
Yep. They're
So
gonna
I
put it
saw
in their
that.
basement
Yeah, yeah.
and expect
This
it to
goes
work.
back to that. This goes back to that ye old rule that I always use with Wi-Fi. People ask me, "Where do you get good Wi-Fi?" And I'm like, think about it like a light bulb, and
Mhm.
imagine your room is dark or your house
Yep.
is dark. Where would you put that light bulb to make sure you have enough light? And they're like, in the closet, in the utility closet, where the guy ran all the cables for the internet. I just put it in there. And it's like that's never going to work.
In the
Anyway,
garage.
in the garage. Oh my God. Okay. Hey, do you do you want to get into some high stakes drama?
Oh, sure.
Okay, so
Let's hear
not drama, but something that I really look. You can see who I was looking at. High stakes drama of of uh of this man. Let's just jump into it. Are
Oh,
you?
yes.
Yeah, dude.
Yes.
Yes, I think she's live right now. Also, I think she's doing
Oh, yeah?
a deal. Yeah, she's doing a how to navigate being laid off. Yes, sorry, Alexis. She's talking right now. It looks like, and she has way more viewers than we do.
Oh, yeah.
But holy moly, my
Drama, man.
look,
You're
look.
right.
You know, I worked at Cisco one time,
Yep.
and I'm not the biggest influencer in the world. I don't have nearly as many people as she does.
Uh-uh.
And even in that role, I was like, well, if you're going to lay me off, I mean, like, I at least look for a media job or, where it's
Yeah.
like, dude, I like leverage this group of people that I have. And I didn't take any offense to it because whatever. I mean, I totally understand the layoffs and whatnot. And I understand her position as well, where, apparently she moved and she was told, hey, you have to find something else because this position terminates on the state. She didn't find anything else, and that was terminated. But holy moly, our dear friend Alexis
Yep.
is now on the open market. Oh my God, who's going to
There's
snap her up first? That's the that's the
yeah.
question. Yeah,
It's crazy the people on the market right now. So
and
there's a lot of opportunities to get some high quality talent out there right now.
we may be few, but we're damn pretty. That's yeah.
Yes, Scott.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Well, I tagged that because it's my question around this is has influencer marketing reached a point that no one cares anymore? That's my
Mm,
question, because if Cisco is willing to let go of probably arguably the number one tech influencer in the industry
mm.
period,
Number
or at
2
least no,
behind,
who's
Lexi.
yeah, I
I
don't
think
know. I
Lexi's got
mean,
her beat.
listen, if Alexa starts licking stuff, I'm going to be very upset. But argue either way. Top 10 influencers, top 5
Yep.
influencers, and Cisco's like, hey, that's cool. Has influencer marketing reached a point where it's just irrelevant in the tech industry? And I struggled with this when we were doing when I did some of the stuff with HPE, and we did their influencer marketing and with Cisco, and we still do the Cisco Champions thing, and that's cool. But it got to a point where it's like I don't know what value, and I don't know what value I'm bringing to the table other than I open it up to the audience. But I don't know how many people have actually purchased an Aruba access point because Drew was like, "Hey, man, this thing's pretty cool," Um, so I don't know how that fares, but when you see something, yeah, right.
You better get licking it.
When you see something like that from someone that we know, that we respect, that we actually like, that's fun and outgoing and easy to communicate with and tells a good story, and it's like that's, in my opinion, that's exactly what the industry needed, was someone sharing that message. I'm too old to do it. Clearly, I don't. I need to start saying, like, you talk about my Sigma access points, right? But it's it was such a it was such a letdown, I feel, for all influencers of any way, shape, or form, to see what happened to Alexis, because it was like, wow, they just really didn't give a shit. Like,
Yeah.
just bye,
Yep.
and
They're like,
I
"You're
know
just
that
a
there's
number.
value in
Good
it.
luck."
Yeah, how do you do that? How do you do that? I don't understand that. So I thought that was, I at least wanted to talk about it. I would say, the best of luck and all those wonderful things for, but I don't think she needs it. I think she's going to be able to, she's doing such a tremendous job creating content that I'm just excited to see where she goes next. So I
She's
had
not
that on there.
pigeon-toed into one little thing. She's got options galore, right?
Yeah, and I mean, and I sent her a message asking her something, and she pops up and she says, she's like, "Man, I'm so sorry I haven't responded. I'm just inundated with stuff." I was like, "That's so cool," you know. And then her car got stolen like 3 days
Yeah.
later. It's like, dude, oh well. Anyway, what else do we have going on here? Let's see. Wi-Fi 7 on the new iPhone 16. What are your thoughts on that, Mr. Mark?
Ooh, I'm like this iPhone 15 Pro. I'm
Yeah,
debating.
yeah. Bye. It's like, oh no,
I've been
I dropped
debating.
it. I
I'm
gotta go
like,
get a new one.
Wi-Fi 7 was the one thing I was like, if they don't have Wi-Fi 7, absolutely not. I'm not buying the new one. They put Wi-Fi 7 in it, and so I'm like,
On
damn,
all models, I thought I was
yeah,
really happy to see that it was across the
finally.
board, and I'm interested to see how that fares into the amount of utilization that is had on these devices and what we're going to see on networks when we deployed Signal Roam, or as my kids call it, Sigma Roam, just for all the gyats out there, for all the little kids, little freaking brain rot generation. I love it. When we deployed Sigma Roam at, at a local school district, everything was working great, and all of a sudden I get this phone call, and they're like, "Hey, we had to turn it off." And I said, "Oh, dude, why? What happened? Was it not working?" They're like, "Nah, man, just everyone jumped on this one AP." We weren't expecting it, and we didn't have any balancing across the network and limited
Yep.
number of devices connected, and we hadn't really done our homework on leveling out the network, and then we just deployed Passpoint for T-Mobile and AT&T, and like all of a sudden APs get inundated.
They join the
Uh,
first AP they walk past when they enter the building, right?
yeah, so I'm happy to see Wi-Fi 7. On that note, some cool stats. Check this out. I saw that one this morning. Skyrocketing usage data from our friends over at RCR Wireless News, intelligence on all things wireless. Miss Catherine Nin says, according to the CTIA report, Americans use more than 100 trillion megabytes of wireless data in 2023. The CTIA found that demand for wireless data in the U.S. has skyrocketed, with Americans using more than 100 trillion megabytes per second, or no, not megabytes per second, megabytes total, representing the largest single year increase ever recorded. For reference, 2023 saw it go up 36% increase to 26 trillion megabytes, an increase over 22, and now over 100 trillion megabytes of wireless data. Man. And that's CTIA, right? So that's over the
Yep.
carrier networks. I wonder, does that include Wi-Fi offload?
I wonder, maybe.
Well, I mean, are they counting it? Let's see. 5G is increasingly embedded into the way Americans live and work. Nearly 40% of all wireless devices have a 5G connection. Okay, 34% over increase over 2022. Total number of wireless connections of 558 million. More than 1.6 wireless connections for every American. Wow. Yeah, so lots going on there, man. So CTIA with some great numbers for everyone. What do you think? You think Wi-Fi 7 is going to increase the number of people that connect to networks?
Um, Got to have Wi-Fi 7 AP. Got to have Wi-Fi 7 client. It's going to take a few years.
It's coming. Check this out. On another note, look at this thing. Look, that's still I got to figure out those little screens, man. Hold on. I think I almost got it. Let's say if I go replace and then I click on here. This is the part that I have to edit out from the audio version of the podcast.
Uh-huh.
Drew not knowing how to screen share properly on a presentation. Dude, check this. Did you see this week?
Uh-uh.
Chinese scientists, get out of here, have developed an electromagnetic vortex cannon.
Whoa.
What's up? Yeah, man. Look at this thing. I don't know what's going on in the corner over here. Vortex rings and air and electromagnetic waves are fascinating structures. Okay, this is like if you ever smoked a cigar or a cigarette and you blow smoke rings. So
Yeah.
this is the same thing. So I've got one of those big air cannons that like you can
Yeah.
pull back and shoot, and
Yep.
it like shoots invisible air.
Yeah.
So it took me a second to figure out why this was important. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, what the hell are these guys talking about? Dude, have you read about this?
I have not. This is the first time hearing
Check
this.
this out, man. Vortex rings, blah, 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 blah. They wirelize those vortex rings, a mysterious and fascinating natural phenomenon, display breathtaking structures. But the key here is, hold on, is the word that I don't know how to pronounce. God, I wish there was someone who could help me out with this. Okay, so there's an air cannon. Here's an electromagnetic cannon.
Uh-huh.
And they they're not called sky rims. What are they called? They're called something else. But they use these vortex pulses to do this. And the idea,
Is it
let me see
disruption?
if yeah, no. Higher levels of modulation,
Oh,
okay?
wow.
Because now you're not just modulating on an XY axis, right?
Uh-huh.
You're
Yeah.
modulating on a rotating XY axis.
Oh.
So, yeah, so check it out. So, let's see if I get this right. So they shoot this this yeah, I'm imagining a smoke ring, right? They shoot
Mhm.
the smoke ring and it's no longer just vertically and horizontally polarized, it's rotating vertically and horizontally polarized. So if you can stack bits per hertz, not just like this, but as it moves, now you
Mm.
have the ability to crank more data out of it. um it's not, I forgot what it's
Wow.
called. It's not Skyrim. Hold on, it's in here somewhere. Electromagnetic vortex cannon. These are the things you find only on the Waves Wireless
That's
podcast.
right.
When the
Never heard
antenna
of this
emits, it
before.
generates an instantaneous pressure difference. It forms vortex rings, which maintain their shape and energy over long distances. So imagine this infinite smoke ring cruising, and
Yeah.
imagine you have a way to modulate on that.
Huh.
Electromagnetic pulses with complex topological features. There it is. Skyrims, he says. Skirmions.
Skyrimians.
I've never heard
Minions.
anyone use this word. Dude, someone give me a pronunciation on this. But they make these things that showcase remarkable resilience and self-healing properties during propagation. Vast extent, high capacity communication systems, these vortex pulses could revolutionize how we transmit information by operating efficient, robust methods of data encoding. The unique spectral and polarization characteristics of the vortex rings allow them to carry more information compared to traditional waves, making them ideal candidates for next generation. Dude, and they maintain structural integrity in the presence of environmental disturbances. It's a valuable tool in remote sensing and targeting detection. Dude, I'm blown away with this just because the picture was like, that looks pretty cool. Anyway, so
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so now how do we get, and so who's going to be the first manufacturer? We've got Wi-Fi 7 that does MLO. We've got Wi-Fi 8 that does multi AP and MLO on multiple APs. How do we
Mhm.
get an AP that does MLO, multi-frequency electromagnetic vortex aggregation, so that like when the two vortex
You send it here and it
vortices,
meets right there, right where you need it when you need it.
let's go, man, let's
Oh my
go.
gosh.
Yeah, it sounds stupid that we're laughing at it. Look, reference this podcast in 9/13/2031 and tell me how dumb it sounds then. Anyway, I thought that was pretty cool, dude.
Make our
That
world
was
much
different.
more complex.
Yeah, yeah. I think those were the main stories that I had this week. I don't know if you know, but I do want to end a little bit on a sad note. The passing of someone named Jim Hong. And I don't
Mm,
know if you ever got a chance to work with Jim, but
I
Jim
didn't.
Hong I met him when he was with Orthogon Systems before their acquisition by Cambium Networks. And Jim was one of the smartest people that I ever knew and one of the best people I ever got to work with. And I'll never forget. He always had three things that you could find with Jim Hong, and anyone who knows him knows what they are. And I'm not even sure that I should say them. So if you remember Jim, just remember the three things that he always used to carry with him, and I always thought that was hilarious. So condolences to his family. There is a memorial service going on for him and another person I found out had recently passed away, which is Mr. Drew Mooney, who I met at Motorola also. So Drew Mooney and Jim Hong, there's a memorial service planned for them at Wispapalooza this year. So if you're going and you want to spend some time reliving some great memories about the Honger and Mr. Mooney. Drew Mooney was like, I remember one time, funny story about Drew Mooney. I remember one time I was applying for a job and going through the whole process, and I found out that the person that I was talking to didn't know they were talking to Drew Lentz. They thought they were talking to Drew Mooney, and they're like, "Man, I love you," and da 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 da. And we're interviewing this other guy, and I think he's got the same name, but we really like you, and you're the candidate we want to go with. I was like, "Oh, that's great, that's great." And I found out later that it was meant for Mooney, and I was like, "Son of a bitch!" Like, I was like, wait a minute, I don't have any experience working at Alcatel-Lucent or wherever it was, and so unfortunately, sad to know that those two guys are gone, but glad I got to spend some time with them. So
Oh man,
shout out, yeah, total bummer, man. But he was
rest in peace,
over.
guys.
Yeah, good guys. Anyway, hey, I really appreciate you joining me, Mark. I know we had a great time at Mobility Field Day,
Yeah.
and it's great to catch up. What I mean, what you got? Anything going on, and anything you want to chit chat about?
I will be at Edgefield Day next week.
Oh, nice,
Yeah, I got invited to that one with those guys
sweet,
with Stevens. So talking
good.
about some edge stuff, less wireless, more wired.
Yeah,
But
man.
there is possibility with like private cellular stuff with some edge things. So
Well, yeah, yeah.
so
That is an interesting. I don't know who's presenting at that. I haven't looked it up, but I know that if you look at the thing that piqued my interest a couple of weeks, I guess months back now, is the new 700 series from Aruba and being able to run containerized applications
mhm.
and Cisco following suit with some of their 9100s and I think that was something that they had mentioned is being able to run edge services on those devices and what the benefit to it is, not just from an AI perspective, because everyone can build AI into whatever the hell they want, but like from a real world operations perspective, is there anyone presenting in that does wireless also?
No, that I not
Okay.
that I know of. So
Well,
Zenda,
damn it, Hollingsworth,
I know,
get your
right?
shit together.
I went to Edgefield Day one, and they had a network company. They weren't wireless. They had
Yeah,
some
they
Wi-Fi
got
stuff.
you right there, right? And then they
Yeah.
just dropped it. They just
Yep.
terrible joke.
But
Anyway,
I'm hoping I'm gonna push and see. They're more of the data center controlling the Kubernetes and the Dockers containers and
ah,
stuff. And
cool.
so they could work with the Wi-Fi or the cellular people or whoever, but they're more focused on that side. So we'll see how that goes. But
Nice.
after that is Med or Meter Up. I will be there with you
Yes,
and
yes.
several
Meter Up
people.
is I have high expectations for Meter Up.
Me too.
It's gonna be great to be around you all and around a bunch of other fun folks. If you don't know what Meter Up is, go to meter.com and look for their event. It's called Meter Up. It's happening October 2nd in San Francisco, and there's an open invite that's out there. You have to apply. You ask for a seat, and if they give you a seat, then you come join us. But that's going to show us the entire world of Meter in one day, which I've seen with, and it blew my mind. And I was so blown away. So I don't know if you noticed, but I went there the day before Mobility Field
Yeah,
Day,
I remember
and
that.
I
And you
walked
got
into
your stuff
Mobility
stolen.
Field Day, and I was like, everything you guys are showing me sucks. Like, compared to what I just saw. Like, this is like Eminem. Like, tell me something about me I don't know already. And so I walked in with this just like this completely jaded mentality. That's not true. I walked in being exposed to some things that I was like, wow, it really put life in a different perspective. And now that Command has come out, now you can understand why I was just like, okay, tie this to 3 years from now. So it was great. It's going to be great to see Meter doing that. And then WLPC, are you going to Prague?
I am supposed to. I'm still figuring a few things out,
That's
but
I'm
I'm
like, I
I'm
really want to
presenting,
go.
so I better go, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm looking to go. I have a request out for someone to sponsor the Waves podcast at WLPC Prague. If you know anyone who wants to sponsor the Waves podcast, either at WLPC Prague or anywhere else, drop me a line. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm actually, dude, I'm doing some sick stuff. If you happen to find yourself in Alaska next week, I'm going to Alaska to do some engineering and design for a port in Alaska for communications for Wi-Fi, 4G, and 5G. And so I'm taking all my toys out there and I'm going to do some videos and stuff. Not like the salt flats, but I've got all of the tools and I'm going to measure all of the things. So that should be pretty. That should be pretty cool. And then
I want
we've
to borrow
got
your Epic Prism.
it's right here. It's right
I want
here.
to borrow it.
It's right, dude. Listen, hey, shout out to my friends at IB Wave. Listen, let me tell you, the Epic Prism. Let's run the commercial. The Epic Prism is a device that when you crack this thing open, I was like, man, I wonder what's in the box. Have you ever seen this?
I've held one. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
never
man.
used it
So
though.
I was like, what in the world is in here? And then I was like, oh, it's got to be great. Wait a minute, it's a tablet. The tablet isn't the fun part. It's
Mhm.
got a cool little case on it. It's not the tablet that makes it fun. It's this little guy right here. There it is.
Yep.
And so there, my zoom's all messed up. So shout out to my peeps at IB Wave. This is actually a really easy to use device.
Mhm.
It's a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I've got a full review of it coming up soon. It works really well to show me what's going on in the cell spectrum and the CBRS spectrum. And they have been very patient because they sent that. And I said, well, I want to use it on my trip to Alaska. And they said, all right, fine, we'll wait. So shout out to the team at, at IB Wave for being patient. Um, and then what else? CES is coming up. The Things Conference. I I tweet and retweet and
Ooh,
repost about the Things Conference that's coming up. And I think that
when is
it's
that?
oh man, it's like it's probably this week.
I could look it up.
It's let me see. The Things Conference. I want to go to this thing so bad, and I've always wanted to go to it ever since I learned about it. The Things Conference is this huge LoRaWAN. It's 25, 26 September, so it's in 12 days. It's in Amsterdam, and it's all things IoT and LoRaWAN, and it is so much fun to watch what they do there, all the postings that pop up. So if you don't know about it, just look for the hashtag The Things Conference. And if you have any interest in IoT or any interest in LoRaWAN, that is definitely the spot to be at. There's such a good group of people, and they always have the coolest toys. And then what else we got coming up? WLPC February, CES in January. I love CES. I don't know, man. Busy calendars, busy schedules.
WLPC is open for presentation. Call for presentation.
Yes.
For
WLPC Phoenix is open for presentation. The call for papers is out right now. If you have always wanted to present at WLPC and you didn't know how, this is the first step. You submit an abstract. You go on the website, go to WLPC and look up WLPC and find it. And you submit your abstract, and then they turn on community voting, and people vote for the presentations that they want to see. So if there's something that interests you, it probably interests someone else. Get online, post about it. Don't be scared. It's not scary. It's scary to think about, and then you get there and you're just like, these are all my friends. Like, these are all people I know, or these are all people that I've seen online, or these are all people that are genuinely interested. Because by the time you make it to the stage, you got to realize that everyone has already told you how much they want to see you present. So there's nothing to be terrified about.
Yep, exactly how it goes. And then you
Yes.
become more well known. You get your name out there, and then you end up on the Waves podcast here. So.
Yeah, there you go. Speaking of, if anyone wants to join, I'll start bringing on some guests here and there. But I think Mr. Muhammad's going to be the next one. I think he chimes in enough. But if anyone wants to join the Waves podcast, let me know. I think that's it. That's for this week, man. This is an hour and 7. It's the longest Waves I think I've done. But we're going to go ahead and push it and have some fun with it. We've held on to about 100 viewers this whole time, which is great. So I appreciate everyone listening and tuning in. I've tried to answer all the questions in the little chat overlay. It's been very busy. Let's see, are there any last words on there that I didn't post up? But that's it, man. That's all I got. Have a wonderful weekend, Mark. Dude, thank you for joining. Great to catch up.
For inviting, man. That's been awesome.
Yeah, pay attention. You've got social media stuff, right?
Yeah, I got markhoutz.com is my blog. It's where I post most of my stuff, and LinkedIn.
And you do a very, very good job blogging. I really enjoy reading your articles. And if no one's following you on LinkedIn, please go follow Mark on LinkedIn as well. Okay, that's it. That's all I got. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. From everyone at the Waves podcast, which is me and Mark, have a wonderful week, and we will see you all next time. Bye.